Hello, this is Cosmic Heart Conversations with Georgie Dragonfly and Zahara Celestial, and she's now going to introduce herself and bring her energy into this space and share her journey.
Oh, thank you. Hello. Wonderful introduction. Dragonfly, very, very beautiful. How do we introduce ourselves? We had a little conversation before, and there's various terms or names that might be approachable or relatable. And I've used many, and I can share some of them, and then over the years I've dropped them. But light worker, way shower, healer, interstellar shaman, I work shamanically, all of that or none of that, because a lot of us are letting go of a lot of these phrases, labels, which are useful, and then we reach a place when they're not useful. Anyway, that's my answer. Hello.
Yeah, I like that. So how would you describe your journey that began? Like where would you start in explaining to others that maybe are curious as to how you've been able to become such a grounded and connected individual that you are?
Oh, thank you. The response, I have several, because we are multidimensional. So the first response that came was the journey is a spiral. It's not linear. However, obviously I was born into this body, this lifetime. But when I was born, and then I do remember having an awareness very young. And then when I was sort of primary school age, memories of past lifetimes that felt very present still. So we all have a different journey of remembering. Some of us have a certain ability or awareness, a knowing that we haven't forgotten. And then in order to fit in to the world that we find ourselves in, we dial that down, we switch that off. And I was not very successful, I'm phrasing it in this way, I was not very successful in switching it off. Sometimes I could dial it down. So my connection with what I feel is really real and true, that felt profound and gave me solace at times, filled me with joy and love, was in nature. And nature was not just what I experienced or others might experience. I can't say for others, but I will assume in some ways beyond that which is called physical. I experienced being able to hear, feel, know, communication between many beings that are at home in nature and are part of nature. So that's always been with me. And I've always had a sense of Gaia, the earth, being part of, and I laugh because I find this extraordinary, how humanity, who is in the earth, functioning, being held by this planet, not just physically, but energetically, thinks that they are not part of being in the planet. I have always found this bewildering, confusing, frightening. For me, this dissociation, separation is a dis-ease that is at the basis, at the heart of all, I would say, the problems, if you call it problems or challenges, that we always face. I would really, I don't often make like big statements, but I would say that. I would say everything leads to that. Everything.
Profound, and it truly is.
Yeah.
From my perspective too, I'm relating to that. And with that expression, where in your life, if maybe you felt like that before, or possibly not ever felt like that, but what is your way of moving out of that diseased experience and into your innate?
Just that, taking a breath. I feel that dis-ease is a urgency. It's a vibration that is always in haste, that fear vibration, rushing, afraid to be still, to be in the present, to be just that, in the now moment. When we are in the now moment, we are embodied. In fact, we are very in the physical, because we're in this planet, which is the Earth, which is a big, huge planet. So coming back home to being present in the now, in the body. So using the breath. I mean, today, I suddenly realized I hadn't been aware of my feet, my toes, how my feet felt as I was walking. So I realized I had jumped out my consciousness. Part of me, I'd been a bit dissociated.
Right.
I hadn't even realized that. And so I feel, and it feels as a knowing, especially from my childhood, that others don't necessarily know that they're not fully present, because that's all they've known, or it's a survival method. So for me, being out in nature brings me back into being fully present and healthy. As humans, we are all connected, and we create a environment, a field, energy, consciously and subtly, and which we might not be always aware of. I mean, Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, but I feel we're coming into a process of awakening out of that collective unconscious to the collective conscious, being conscious of being connected, and how, we know that we can sense when we move into a room where there's certain people, and we can feel the energy, we can feel there's a sense of becomes almost like an organism, an energetic resonance. Yeah. And they've done tests with people, that you put people in a room, and if one person is not part of the test, and the individual will feel really drawn to follow what the group are doing, even if it's threatening their life. So it's not just trying to fit in or social norms. There's an energetic that's more subtle than even like a physical animal instinct to fit in. There is an energetic connection between people. Because everything is energy. Everything is energy. So Yes, I don't know where I sort of went off there, but yes.
Great,
That's
slow. And so I wanted to also like bring this into your flow with light language as well, which we might call it light language or heart language. You may have another name for it, like sound transmission, expression. Would you say that this is a part of nature and something that has come through because of your connection with nature? Or would you say that this is something that's helped you feel more connected? I'd love to hear more about your journey with that.
Oh, thank you. Well, when you were saying that, the term or the word, what is natural,
Yeah.
we have that in everyday communication, all that feels natural. So we have a lot in our phraseology and communication that relays that vibration that we are part of nature. So if we are in harmony, that means we are in what I would call divine communication. Everything is resonating, flowing together. So there's not a separation for me from nature. That doesn't exist. So in the way I understand how you were presenting that question, and that's how I in one way respond to that, is that I feel so how I am giving myself permission is how my thinking, my exploration, my exchange of communication is like a spiral. That goes back to how I started, rather than in a linear way. So for me, divine communication, language of love, light language, is not linear. And it is, if there is an it is rewiring our minds, our brains. It is altering how we live, how we function, how we are. We have been programmed, and I think this is a very accurate word to use, to believe and therefore exist in that belief that we are functioning in linear time. There is a beginning and an ending, and everything runs with that. Everything is focused with that idea. So divine communication for me is multidimensional, is quantum, is not linear, has many functions. It will do because it's so vast. It is not like a one-tracked mind. It's not got, it has it functions on many different levels. So divine expression, we are all a divine expression, and we express divinity divinely and uniquely. So I'm sure you and all of us who are on this journey, and while you'll be doing these podcasts, when you ask people this question, you are going to get a whole range of responses. There's not going to be one correct answer. So that's one response, and I could give many different responses. For me, another response is it's the language of the heart, of the soul, and it's not necessarily limited to the rational. It is expansive. It is very much like poetry, very much like music and art. It's not necessarily an equation. However, saying that, there is, divine music in numbers and sacred geometry and physics. So I hear the sound of divine communication everywhere. It is not for me alien. It is not something outside of me or outside of nature or outside of Mother Earth Gaia. It is a true language. And I feel the Bible somehow had a bit of it about that. There's something about the Tower of Babel, and at one point everyone spoke the same language. Now, I had that experience where I met that elder from that tribe from Colombia, who spoke to me in his own language, and he got frustrated with me because I wasn't listening through my heart. He's a highly intelligent man, obviously, well, I say obviously, but he wanted to send a message to, he said, the children of the earth that were not understanding and creating havoc for all of life. And I went to a talk, and there was other elders from South America that had traveled far from their own environment. And I thought it must be to come from like Amazon jungles, etc., mountains in to going on aeroplanes to finding themselves in the middle of London. I just I was in awe. And so when he spoke to me, and I've shared this with before, that to me is truly divine communication, because he understood that we do not truly need to always understand through our mind. So that, given that they are so connected to nature, so that I think that's been one of the most profound experiences I've ever had, to be quite honest. So.
And something that I suppose that you feel that, I don't know about you, but they're expressing something that, what we might call light language, to somebody else. And then that's something that's ancient and has always been in existence for them. And I suppose speaking to you to your heart is another form of this activation for humanity as well. That's their role that they're playing. And actually reminded me of the fact that you've been in London and now you've come into Wales or Monmouthshire, so you're very much have been in that lifestyle of very in disease. It's very detached, we could say, in London, with limited space for nature, to then being where you are now, which is surrounded by nature. And I wonder if that's something that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yes, it's I miss where I lived in London. I lived near Hampstead Heath, and there were really ancient oaks that would in a way they were oak trees, and some of them were more than oak trees, but maybe they are just still oak trees. It's just I was able to realize the ancientness of them and that they were beings. So they had different functions, and I was living there for over 20 years, going to that and connecting with them. So I miss them a lot.
Yeah.
And one I only discovered relatively recently, and that being would dimensionally move and shift, and it was right by this portal that's by between Kenwood and Hampstead Heath. So I don't miss living in a city. And I live in a new housing estate that's on the edge of a small town. So I'm very amongst a lot of people physically. But when I walk out my door, I don't have to deal with living in the middle of a city and that vibration, that energy. The around is wild and land. So I'm not amongst that kind of vessel. And I'm gradually getting to know the land. But it got to a point where I could not function how I wanted to function living in the city. And I've had various stages all along in my life where I've forced myself to function, sort of powered through, and so I live on an old boundary. It's no longer the present boundary between England and Wales, but it's the oldest and the longest, and it's a walk, and I walk it every day, the boundary between England and Wales, and I find that very interesting.
Yeah, that must be an interesting energy to be, to feeling the boundary, the boundaries that were created by. And I also wanted to ask you about, because you just mentioned the trees and they have different functions. What are their functions? If that I was like, oh, I just want to hear about the tree.
Cool.
What and how you know that? How do you differentiate that? Some people might not actually have that kind of connect. I understand that relationship with trees and how it is like they love seeing you and you love seeing them, and there's a relationship there, isn't there? So if you want to talk, actually kind of backtracking, but yeah, if you want to talk about that, I would really find that really interesting.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I've got two, in a way, physical, tangible confirmations of what I was picking up with two of the oaks. So one of them is in a sort of a kind of like a valley bit on Hampstead Heath, and it's got sort of like often at the base, it's got a kind of like a cave, like it's got you can go in.
Yeah.
And I was doing some remote healing with somebody who had cancer, and he didn't have long to live, and so the healing wasn't to cure what we might want to do, or he had actually accepted that was his journey, that he was going to move on, transition. And so it wasn't about trying to cure him of cancer. And I was drawn to this tree for him, and some energies and awarenesses came in, which I then shared. And then through that, I was aware that this tree assists many beings to transition from being alive in the physical to other dimensions, dying, simply put, to then move on. But and then after that, I noticed people placing urns at the base and inside, and notes and flowers, and I'm like, other people know and are drawn to that tree for that reason.
Yeah.
So it's a very gentle energy. It's very soft. It's kind of in a little valley. It's the trunk, one of the trunks is like, well, no, one of the I would say the arms, it's like a trunk, but it branches is horizontal and it's covered in moss and it's just feels very protective and gentle energy. Then the other tree I literally only saw and noticed recently. I was aware of that. I thought, how come I've not visually or energetically even seen it, been aware of it? And it's huge and it's right by the main pathway. Why is that? How? And I always notice those awarenesses. I don't brush them aside. Mm-hmm. And often that an awareness like that is an obvious awareness and is true. I didn't notice it because it's not always there. And other people don't notice it. And also the people of whoever caretakers of the heath keep putting branches and other trees that have died or been blown off in the wind or whatever. They cordon the area off around it. They don't do it with any of the other oak trees. They do it with that tree. Mm. I'm not a tree person that in that way. I can't figure out why they would do that, other than they are somehow responding to the tree saying, give me space. Mm. People don't go near it, even though you can go around it. I went with a walk and took a friend to show her this tree, and so I said, why don't you sit by the base of the tree and I'll take a photograph. And well, the photograph is this I look like a beam of light, and I'm with my four-legged companion here, Gemma, and we both look like we just and she just so again, that's a confirmation that so that being moves in between the dimension and realms. It's doing something massively, so energetically, so it is moving energy, it's guarding, it's a gatekeeper, and it's right by the gate into Kenwood, which is where there's a fairy portal area, which has other different trees, sort of evergreen trees, and that's where I'd also had an experience of moving between dimensions. I was walking on a summer day, and like you can get a shimmer if you on a road or something, but this was like everywhere, and it was golden liquid light, and I was walking, suddenly I was in it, and I was aware it's a bit like when you go up in an airplane or you move up in up a mountain or something, you go up and you kind of, your ears pop and or you're muffled. I didn't have that, but that it's kind of similar, that you're changing, that you're in a different environment. And so it was a kind of like that the people around me were playing, and children, I was very present with them, but at the same time I was in this other dimension as well. So this whole area is very got a close proximity. It's very physically, those two trees and the other fairy bit and the portal bit. And that's actually where very near I used to sit by another tree in Kenwood, and it was another summer day, and I looked up and there was a Merkabah ship just going ding, 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 in daylight, ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, so it was one being that had activated their light body, created this vessel that was them to move around and have a little look. and so that was, I hadn't been opening up to do any meditation, journeying, activation. I think I'd gone for a long walk on the heath into Kentwood. I'd always go and sit there by this birch tree and just sit. I wouldn't be kind of doing any necessarily, I'm opening up this, doing this, chanting, no woo-woo stuff to me. Not, I would be very grounded and just, I'm just sitting here enjoying in a blissful state. So my heart was open. I was very grounded, very relaxed. And there, I think responded was this light being doing its thing.
Be able to just see them in their what they're doing. In that same frequency to pick it up, which is quite interesting. Are you able to explain a little bit, just a bit more, what that light body Merkaba is, just in case there's anybody listening that it's like, what's that?
That's a word that might have been like, what? I interestingly until I have a personal experience, I don't understand. And I'm very like that. And I think other people might be or not. I don't know, but I'm very like that. So people have been talking about Merkaba, and I'm like, what is that? It's a term from Egypt. And I've had one other experience, which then I realized now I know what that is. And I think I then was a Merkaba ship. But it is when we astrally project, when we journey. It is when we have activated, it's lots of things, it's all of this. When we have activated our light body. So when we expand our heart awareness, when we expand our heart consciousness, when we become, you could say, enlightened, we lighten up, we bring in a intention to focus on our soul vibration, to connect with spirit. It happens also through Kundalini awakening, and that's a whole other big vast subject, but I'll just drop that in because it is connected, and I would be amiss not to drop that in. It is when our energy is flowing, and so one way of journeying shamanically, or you don't have to say shamanically, but is being aware, trying to think ways of explaining this, that in order to move from the physical 3D dimension, which is slow, it's quite slow in some ways, to the other dimensions, which are faster and lighter, we need to speed up our energy and vibration. And we can do that through intention, through our breath, and visualizing movement of the breath that goes up and down our backbone. And it's when that energy moves up and down through the breath, it speeds up our energy and our auric field. It also alters our brain wave in our brain, so it goes from the different meditative states, theta and beta and etc. I always get them all a bit all muddled. And something happens that creates a sacred geometric vessel, sacred geometry. Everything is sacred geometry. Everything responds to the flower of life. If anybody who's listening to this hasn't heard of Flower of Life, go and look it up, and I'm not going to go into all of it. And I'm not sort of able to, the way that I'm made up, to kind of do a whole essay.
But we're in a podcast.
Yes, it's like, oh God, now we're talking about Flower of Life. So, but everything resonates within a beautiful design, a beautiful song, sacred geometry, Fibonacci patterns, so we are also part of that. And so when we raise our vibration through our intention, our breath, our energy, it creates a sacred geometry light vessel and it's that which is a Merkaba.
And
So
that's what you
just
saw. Yeah.
so, and we can travel. It's a container for our consciousness, our light body. It's a container.
Yeah.
And I believe that is what we're evolving to, that we will be not in a physical, not that our body will just lighten up and lighten up, so that we are almost translucent in some ways, or people talk about crystalline body. I don't know. I've seen one person, and it wasn't in the physical, where she was being interviewed, and it was Lisa Transcendence Brown, Lisa Transcendence Brown, and it was quite a few years ago, and she was being interviewed by Todd Medina. They were sitting next to each other, and she put some makeup, and she's like, put some makeup on because I have a feeling I might kind of sort of disappear a bit. And during the interview, she was becoming translucent, and he kept on having to leap up from sitting up from being next to her because the energy was so high. He was like, I need to go and take a walk. And she couldn't stop laughing, and I watching it, I couldn't stop laughing because he was like, oh my God, I just need to ground. And she was just sitting there just being herself, and literally like moving out, in and out. You could see it through the camera. There was no special effects because he was sitting next to her.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I had a very little small incident of like my first kind of, well, it wasn't my first, but it was definitely something where I thought I'd get into this understanding of the Merkaba, and I started to realize when I looked at the words, because I always like to sound things out, like you with the light language, everything's sound, and there's these sections, and I realized that it was actually a sound, Merkaba, and I started to sound it.
wow.
And I remember running, I was running, and I was just sounding it while I was going for a run, and I could feel my energy just lifting up, and I was started to go a lot faster as well.
Wow.
But yeah, so I think that is something that we can harness even into this reality that we're in, isn't it? And it's about bringing that information into this existence, because yes, there is lots of ancient knowledge and wisdom that we are just rediscovering, aren't we? Because it wasn't necessarily available to us, not to everybody, and it's definitely becoming more and more available, especially when we have the social platforms and people have got books and everything on this kind of subject for people to start to understand. However, I feel my resonance with you is that there's this sort of sense of just rediscovering, or just being naturally experiencing those things. And like you explained, your journey with understanding the Merkaba was through your own experience. So yeah, I find that just really fascinating, that's it's such a natural state of being. And I suppose, have you always felt that you are able to be in that space all of the time, or is this something that you've had to build confidence with, that understanding of yourself, that it's a natural part of you? I mean, obviously I know that we spoke about it before, but you did speak about going into shamanic courses and things like that, and you already have been knowing naturally how to perform those specific say techniques or modalities, and that's because it's something that's flowing through you, being that natural channel.
Thank you. Just taking in what you said.
I went around a long way a bit there, but I got there.
Yeah, there was an inherent knowing that I hadn't forgotten. Even if I had forgotten consciously, there was that feeling, knowing that on so much. So what would often happen to me, I wanted to connect with other people. and I wanted to awaken fully.
Mhm.
And so I would do workshops, and I would wake up to what they were teaching, and then more. And then I wouldn't fit in with what they were teaching. It's happened to me again and again and again. To then one of the last workshops I did, in physical workshops, I just didn't say. I did a 2-year training, and it happened there again. By then I didn't, in a way, I didn't consciously want to do it, but it came out my mouth to the tutor at the time when I was wanting to wake up my psychic senses, my clairs. I said, I want to do the healing course. And I literally said it and said, I don't know why I said that. But even on that course, I mean, luckily my supervisor, it took her to say to me, you know, you're working at an advanced level, and do carry on doing what you're doing and just tick the boxes. There's a reason why you're doing this course. I'm aware that in that way, I felt separate from a lot of people, including the people I felt I would maybe resonate with, because I'd be on these workshops and courses, or even part of a teaching team. I used to do part of these big camps in Britain and America, and I'd be sensing and feeling and knowing things that even my who were called my elders weren't being aware of. And so it's been very, now that's not the case now, because so many people have awakened and are waking up, and those people who are waking up more in the recent linear time, like, are waking up really fast. So and I wasn't aware that there were other people around that would have been conscious of things that I was aware of, and more. I just didn't know of them. So my journey has been my journey, and it's not about me being any better, but it has. I've spent a long time searching wanting to belong, wanting to find fellow tribes people, and then finding that I could see that they resonated in that energetic together, and I didn't want to remain in that energetic. I would go from one group to another group to another group. I could feel that they had a kind of a cohesiveness, a resonance, that they were kind of happy to sort of stay in together. I could visit and go, oh, how interesting, and then move on. And I realized my soul's been doing that it's beyond linear time. I've been doing that for a long time, but I feel I'm beginning, in a way, my human aspect this lifetime to begin to understand what that's about. But that's been my role, and it's, yeah, we've all got different ways, reasons how we're resonating. It's kind of beyond, for me, it's been beyond learning certain modalities, systems. And that's why at the beginning of our conversation, when you asked for me, you know, to introduce myself, I'm like, I could be this, I could be that, I could be this and that, and I'm actually none of it.
Yeah, I really like that.
But so I'm always tinkering with my website because of it, because I'm like, I put something down and I'll go, oh no, delete. Because how can you know, I mean, we're functioning in the human, but we're becoming more vast. And how do you put that in words? I don't know. I just kind of, in the end, just let it go, because it's all just a dance and an exploration, and just not to, in a way, to take myself so seriously. I think that's trying to sort of, you know, just enjoy
let it go.
Yes, just let it all go, let it all go. Yeah. I don't know if that's answered your question, but that's
Well, yeah, I think it does, because it's just honing in that kind of experience that you've had, so that when we share that for others, and they can go, oh, okay, I feel I understand a little bit of my own journey from the kind of comparison. Not that we want to compare our experience, but it helps us to see the synchronicities, because that anchors more truth in our own experience, doesn't it? If we're experiencing this sort of constant shift in awareness, and we're not able to really sit and hold ourselves in groups permanently, then we might just feel that there's something wrong with us. But then to hear that there's a person that, oh, I'm just evolving, I'm evolving, and I just allow that experience to be, and know that it's teaching me this state of not being stuck in stagnation, and I'm constantly evolving, and I'm not attached to these experiences, then someone else might be able to sort of be more eased in that synchronicity that they have with their experience, although it won't be exactly the same, but there will be similarities, because again, I feel that there's been that resonance with me too, you know, even when I was at school, I was always going to all these different friendship groups, and I could never really stick with anything, and that discomforted many people. But for me, it's just how it needed to be, and I understand more and more now why that is, and it is that, for me personally, is the ability to feel like a freedom to move around, freedom to explore my own creativity and my beingness without having to be fixed into a specific, I suppose maybe we call it like a template or a program.
Right.
You know, we're not fixed into those, are we? So it allows us to explore, and also bring in a higher dimensional resonance that isn't really necessarily expressed in this earth plane for other people, and it starts to anchor that vibrational resonance into the grid, so that other people are then able to experience it as well. I think in regards to like how we start to access more energy is by those like yourself that is open to experiencing that energy, and then creating that I suppose, like you said at the beginning, you said about an organ, like, and that collective consciousness. It's like creating a new creative collective consciousness, and that energy for to be accessed. Well, that's what I feel, and that resonance comes through with some of your work. And I don't know if you want to speak about some of that, because there's some beautiful energies and artwork that you have been creating that really helps and assist people with their journeys, and actually the soul remembrance. So I'd love you to share some information.
Okay, thank you. I've just been aware of sort of when I started to more consciously put my time into seeing people, and when I fully woke to what was called a star seed, but it's now, I think, you know, it's kind of evolving out of that. But so then people then would be drawn to me, or I don't know how they would, word of mouth, or they would just, you know, come, and I would intuitively, instinctively know where they were from, so what star system, I would just know. Hence being a traveling soul, I've been pretty much everywhere, I think. So hence I would have that knowing. And so that has been part of, I realize, my soul purpose. That's why I keep on the, you know, sort of a traveler. Other souls are not traveled around so much on a certain vibrational dimensional level, because in some way we're all divine source and we're all part of everything. But anyway, so that's and I've been on my own path, evolving, trying to figure out in a way, you know, how am I expressing myself through my creativity and spirit and soul, and connecting with other people. And so I came back to, well, I have been doing some, I started doing images, I think it was in 2018, really consistently. I felt drawn to, in a way, draw aspects of people's soul in a very kind of figurative way. And then more recently, I wanted to expand on that more, and where I could, that's my fault, it's the neighbors and she's now, where I could because we're all artists. So as a healer, we're artists, we're alchemists, we're all creator beings. So I wanted to anchor in certain essences from a very high soul resonance, in like a metaphor, a symbol, a holding vessel, put that in a form, put it in, create a shape. And so, and then you can call that light language. And so I started to change how I, for want of a better word, work with people in order to tune into a higher resonance. I found it a distraction for me to then have sessions like in Zoom where I'm speaking to people and talking about their journey and their soul path and who they could be in their soul purpose, because I can pick up so much. I'm like looking at their body, I see their aura, what's going on with their chakras, where their past life, where they're focusing on. I'd be like sitting there going, whoa. and I feel now where we all are, potentially, but certainly people who are waking up at a certain resonance place. There's no judgment to that. I sort of explain it. I felt it would be of service to bring in an essence, a vibration, a symbol, like I say, a vessel, energy, metaphor, to anchor a very high vibrational aspect of them. It's a key, a symbolic representation, but also an energy that vibrates, like light language, imagery, art, poetry, music. It is alive. It has a resonance. It vibrates. It responds. It's alive in that it's not static. So being one could say I'm an artist. I am representing for, I don't mean it how it might sound. I don't know how else to say it. I am representing for the whole, I don't know how I'm going to say it in the way, and hopefully the whole humanity, what humanity is. Just, we all do that. We mirror back for each other. And we are all artists, is what I'm saying. And in my way, I'm saying this is, I'm shaping how I'm seeing. I'm co-creating with you this aspect of you. You are doing it with me, maybe not consciously, but I'm bringing in that higher soul resonance, that aspect that wants to be embodied. And I'm creating, as an alchemist would do, I'm creating a vessel for this then to be drunk in, taken in, where you can hold it, feel it, see it, be with it. And so I am a translator. I help move that energy. I help, not that I'm doing it, but I'm in service. I'm a shamanic term would be a hollow bone or a tube for this energy information to come through, and then me be a co-creative being that I love art and imagery. I always have, and I co-create this. So it's a catalyst, a vessel to hold that aspect of that soul. But I feel more and more people are needing, desiring to feel their soul vibration or a higher aspect of to assist them. Before, I had not wanted to it felt like I would be taking away something from them, from their journey of remembering. But then something shifted where I felt that it would, because I'm not taking anything away. I'm assisting, I'm giving them a key, and they said, well, you do with it what you want. You open the door and you walk through it. This is what is coming through, and you are actually giving permission for, and you using me as a tool to show something that you can then, and a lot of people, they get validation and go, I've heard that, I felt that, I know that, I've sensed that, I've dreamt that, and it just enables, and it gives a bit of a like, and also hopefully it's a beautiful thing because we're here on earth to co-create beauty and therefore be in love vibration. So I want to reflect back to people their beauty and their uniqueness. And so in whatever way that I create images is my interpretation.
That's
and
incredible, by the way. Your artwork is just
thank you.
otherworldly, but also, yeah, it's stunning, it's intricate, and you really feel this resonance of something that it's new to this, to my experience. When I see what you create, it's always so diverse, and there are like nothing else I've personally ever seen. They're really something. And you also obviously share a beautiful transmission, don't you, along with the artwork. So it comes with all of that. And
yes, like
I wanted to, before we finish up, if you wanted to share anything about, just let people know about your offerings, but also if you did feel called to share like a transmission or anything like that before you share your where you can be found.
oh, thank you. Okay, yes. Well, my name is Zahara Celestial, so you can find me by my name. My website is the name, so that's how you can find me, just very simply. That's why I did it. And my offerings are always evolving. I do see people remotely, as in, but it's not remote, via Zoom. I work with people in different capacities, one-to-one, run classes, and I also create these soul vibrational containers. And I've got a YouTube channel, which I put loads up, and an Instagram. So I also run groups, and I'm going to be expanding on the classes. I've decided that that's what I want to make, a bit more of a library of sort of learning. People can drop in and learn things. Because I have been teaching a lot in this area for a while, and then I haven't over this last 2 years. That stopped because of everything. So now I've got a lot of experience to convey, and tools to assist people to move along. So I'm going to be expanding on that. But so that's that. So to complete, what I have been moving into is being more of an open vessel for beings to come in and speak through, not all, sometimes in English, and not just through light language. So I'm just going to tune in. So let's tune in and see what who the resonance wants to come in, and just to send gratitude for this space to you, Dragonfly, and whoever's watching and listening and hearing. And I just feel just to bring in love and gratitude for ourselves and therefore each other. And as I'm feeling this, I'm feeling my body recognizing this, and my light body expanding, and my heart resonating more and more. And there is that wonderful relationship where we communicate, and that vibrates and resonates and keeps on reverberating and spiraling outwardly into the multiverse. And then we empty and we let go. And that is something what I do with myself, with others, is that connecting and communicating and then letting it all go and then emptying. And then when we empty, something pops in the middle of the brain, the pineal, and the crown, and all the other beautiful divine centers. And then our heart and our soul kind of takes charge. And our higher self pulls in a way, a family of light awareness. And the higher dimensions resonate out from within the heart, rippling outwardly, mirroring. And again, there's that spiraling, reflecting. No koe si iana oea, totor koe hi anarakat or koe anarakit iano kotor koe na eshuiana. So we have the Elohim, kotushviene etiana, mot ud uet ia. We wish to relay this message, this simple message we're relaying now. That they have been placing themselves in specific, potent places within the physical realm on Earth. We're anchoring in this new template. So they are evolving how they're working in a way, but they have, in our own linear time, more people were perceiving their presence. They're coming in. They're coming into land. So when in certain words, English words, it's already resonating in light language. So Elohim, like you say, Merkaba, we don't need to, it is a light language. It's not been disrupted, altered. It has that pure resonance. So we see Elohim, it's woo. All you need to say is Elohim. And they're like, oh. So that is a message they wish to relay. And it's my way, I think, of being very down to earth. I start cracking jokes and just like talking about mundane things. It's kind of, that's how I am. I'm very human, and I'm very on the earth plane, and that's my way of shifting into to okay, that's now I've completed while still woo. So that's kind of the way I work.
And thank you so much. It was beautiful, and I think a lot of people are going to really be able to feel into maybe a totally new resonance for themselves, or potentially something that has been there within them all along. So thank you. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for opening up this space and for being you. And I really look forward to hearing all the future divine communications you're going to have.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking me.
Sharing the synchronicities of this divine expression of us as all beings. So everyone, like we said, Zahara Celestial, this is her name, and you can just Google search and you'll find her in many different places. Do check out her artwork. You really need to see it to feel this beautiful vibration that comes through in each and every piece. And we look forward to the podcast to come. Sign up, follow, comment, share how you experience this beautiful transmission and beautiful journey that we've all gone on today. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye.